Recording in progress.
Good evening, everybody. Today is January 21st, 2025. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and I'd like to call upon Mayor Pro Tem Julie Roach to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand if you're able.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Madam City Clerk, if you can take the roll.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, good evening. Councilmember Andrews.
Present.
Councilmember Bonilla Jr.
Present.
Councilmember Goldstein.
Present.
Councilmember Roach.
Present.
Councilmember Syra.
Present.
Councilmember Cermeño. Mayor Salinas.
Present, thank you. Mr. City Attorney, could you give a closed session announcement, please?
Mayor and Council, this evening the Council convened at 6 p.m. pursuant to posted notice and the Brown Act. All members were present. There were no public speakers. In conference with legal counsel, the Council discussed pending litigation, City of Hayward versus Union Pacific Railroad. And after discussion, the Council approved settlement with the City receiving approximately $350,000 resulting from various environmental violations. The approval was unanimous with the motion made by Councilmember Cermeño, seconded by Councilmember Roach. Staff will continue to pursue a maintenance agreement with UPRR. That completes the report.
Thank you. Next is public comments. Public comments is an opportunity from members of from the community to make a public comment on something that is on the agenda or not on the agenda. And I do have one card. Let me see if there's anybody online. I do have two hands online. So I'll tell you what, I'll go to the hands online first, and then I'll go to the speaker card. So Barbara L.R., you can go right ahead.
Good afternoon. Hi, Hayward City Council. My name is Barbara Ledesma-Reinhalt. I am a district representative for State Senator Dr. Aisha Wahab. It's very lovely to be speaking with you all tonight. I would like to extend an invitation from our office to our immigration town hall that will be taking place this Saturday. The town hall will be virtual and consist of presentations by several organizations in the Bay Area that provide legal assistance to immigrants, including the ACLU, Centro Legal, and I'm sorry, my notes are messed up. Okay. Anyway, I'd like to invite you all to this town hall, and if you allow me, I'd also like to repeat the message in Spanish for any constituents that may be listening in Spanish. Quiero invitarlos todos hoy a un town hall sobre el tema de inmigración. Vamos a tener representantes de organizaciones legales de la Bahía listos para ayudarles y contestar cualquier preguntas sobre la nueva administración que tengan. El town hall va a ser este sábado de 9:30 de la mañana a 1 de la tarde. Espero que nos puedan acompañar. Más información está disponible en nuestro sitio web. Again, this town hall is Saturday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. It will be virtual. We are ensuring to keep all participant information anonymous and secure and will not be shared with any other agencies. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Ledesma. And yeah, I apologize, I didn't recognize your name on our on the list here. And please send our regards to Senator Wahab. Next caller is Ro Aguilar. And I don't know if Ms. Aguilar wants to talk now, or do you want to talk when we get to the item on the agenda?
Can you hear me?
Oh, okay, yeah, go right ahead. I can barely hear you, but go.
All right, public comments. I want to share an issue that we brought up at the last Hayward Policy Resources Committee on December 19th. In addition to focusing on homeless student housing as a priority, another affordable inclusionary housing approach was discussed to support inclusionary housing. This topic I'm calling inclusive neighborhoods, because that's what we called it at the meeting, would encourage, if not require, each new residential development to include a range of housing types and affordability, including market rate, middle class, multi-income level apartments, and subsidized townhouses rented or owner occupied as an example. It's similar to the mixed use development, but the focus is on residential units. This type of development, inclusive neighborhoods, would have the effect of integrating lower income families into middle class neighborhoods at the start, thus expediting lower income residents' access to resources and amenities of higher income families, especially the children, and thus build up the middle class in Hayward. Using both of these policies, inclusive housing and AIH, would expedite the implementation of Hayward's housing. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You have 2 minutes left.
Housing policy goals. My question is, does the current city zoning allow for something like inclusive neighborhoods? And if not, and the council agrees that this approach is worth some exploration or has merit, how soon can the city revise the code? It's not allowed. And this strengthening of the middle class is more important now than ever. So I would ask or request that if you are interested in something like this, please place this inclusive neighborhoods proposal on the council agenda for further discussion as soon as possible. I think the staff might agree that it's similar to mixed use, but I don't know if our codes allow for residential mixed use. Thank you, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Anthony Thomas. Yeah, you come up here to the microphone and hit the button and yeah, red means go around here.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for your time. My name is Anthony Thomas, and I'm reaching out as a local martial arts instructor. And one of the tenets of being a martial arts instructor is public service. So what I wanted to offer to yourselves and any city staff interested is that on the first Saturday of every month, I wanted to offer a free self-defense seminar to anyone who's interested, not just covering the physical aspects of martial arts, but situational awareness, how to prevent attacks before they happen, the psychology of predatory behavior. These are all things that I cover. And just as a matter of public service, I wanted to offer that to yourselves and any staff that may be interested.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think Councilmember Andrews, no, appreciate it. Thank you very much. Let's see. Let's see. Next speaker is it Kelly or Kylie? Oh, Kelly. I'm sorry, I can't read your handwriting. Is it Abru? Oh, I said it right.
Abdu. Thank you, council members. I'm a proud alumnus of Moreau High School in Hayward, and I'd like to thank this council and council members Armeno for welcoming the school's representative last month. I'd like to I'll try to uphold Moreau's academic standards tonight. I'm here to discuss the proposed 77 megawatt data center at Eden Landing and its implications for Hayward. Cities across the Bay Area are grappling with the rapid growth of data centers, and the Bay Area now ranks as the third largest hub in the country. Santa Clara is now seeing serious consequences. Data centers there consume 60% of the city's power, straining their electrical grid to such an extent that their planning commission recently voted to block some new projects. Hayward now faces a similar crossroads. The proposed Eden Landing facility would consume as much electricity as all Hayward households combined. Residential households. The massive power demand would increase daily operations at the Russell City 700 megawatt natural gas power plant, leading to increased emissions and air pollution in this community. While the developer offers $1.3 million in community benefits, this amount is inadequate when compared to the project's scale. A roughly $200 to $300 million construction budget, but plus perhaps $250 million in IT equipment. For a project of this magnitude, Hayward should be seeking either $10 or $20 million in one-time benefits or annual contributions of $1.3 million. Hayward has one chance to get this right. Other cities are already experiencing the downsides of rapid data center development. Data center electrical consumption already comprises 2% of the United States electrical demand, and it's growing at the rate of 9% a year. Hayward deserves the best. It deserves a fair deal that reflects the impact on the local power grid, air quality, and community well-being. I hope this council can take care of business and hold your heads up high like the Moreau football team. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Aaron Horner.
Good evening, council members, city staff. Thank you all for allowing us the opportunity to speak. My name is Aaron Horner. I'm a Hayward resident, longtime Hayward resident, and I happen to work with First Pres Hayward and South Hayward Parish. I'm coming tonight to talk about our concern, not just from me, but from many of our community members on the recent encampment sweep that happened at Weeks Park. And what appears to be a new trajectory on how we'll be handling homelessness in our city. It is true, the week before we did go out as service providers and provide opportunities. At that provision opportunity, 3 individuals were connected to services. The Link team came through, many different service providers came through, and we were able to at least speak with all of the individuals. On the day of the encampment sweep, there was 25 city, hard, and police vehicles that all drove onto the park. and it looked more like a SWAT maneuver than a way to clean up our parks. It was pretty intense. It was overly intense for what it should have been. And all it did that happened, I stayed there after everyone left, and several minutes later, most people started to come back to the park. There were 3 people arrested. There was one woman who had recently had a stroke, was sent to St. Rose. She was sent back out to the park after her stroke, 3 days after her stroke, and was found in that park freezing. The police very kindly called for medical services to get her to the right level of care, but she's back in the park now. We really need to take a concerted effort at being able to address this issue, specifically around encampment resolution, as a way to actually resolve situations for people, not just sweeping people out and saying to leave. I just left from the HARD meeting right before this, and they're discussing a plan to put a fence around the entire park. So now this problem would actually just spread out into the residential area around it. It would not solve it. Another thing we need to do is to be able to stop people from entering homelessness. On a regular basis, weekly, sometimes daily, we're seeing Hayward residents, of which roughly 80 to 90% of the folks that are in that park are from Hayward. Many have been born and raised there. There's a few of them here in the room with me one of them has been in Hayward for more than 60 years and has been on the streets for more than 12 years and continues to look for support. We do need to have more shelters, more services available, and really underlying all of this, I hope that we would find it in our hearts to not blame the individual that has been harmed by our society, not just the city of Hayward, but our society on blaming individuals for their unfortunate circumstances, and really begin to look at some long-term solutions so that we can stop this housing crisis. And I thank y'all for everything that y'all are doing. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Horner. I don't have any more cards, so I'd like to close public comment and move on to city manager's comments. If you don't know, if you have not heard yet, there is a new person sitting at the chair, and I'd like to welcome Dr. Alvarez to the dais. And Madam City Manager, do you have any comments for tonight?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the City Council, at your next City Council meeting on January the 28th, we will have a work session with staff from the Capitol Corridor to discuss the South Bay Connect project. And Alex Amedi, our Director of Public Works, wanted to make sure that you were aware and be ready that the Managing Director and the Project Manager will be on hand to provide information about the project, receive yours as well as the public's feedback about the project, and respond to any questions. Just as a reminder for the members of the public, it was during the project's environmental review process that council members requested a meeting with in Hayward to discuss this project, which proposes to reroute the Capitol Corridor and stop serving the Hayward station. The Capitol Corridor JPA staff have notified Hayward residents who have inquired about the project in the past about the upcoming work session. Also, you should know that city staff have also sent notifications to residents through the city's online newsletter and social media channels. And then I also have another announcement that's coming from our library director, and she wanted to make sure that we extend a warm welcome to all of you as well as members of the public to the Hayward's Library special program in honor of the Lunar New Year on this coming Saturday on the 25th from 11:30 in the morning until probably around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The event will honor the start of the Year of the Snake and will include Korean drumming, Chinese lion dancing, and a Kung Fu demonstration. Please wear red if you plan to join. We would like to see you there and wear your traditional clothing or come as you are. No reservations are required and all ages are invited. I know that the mayor will be there. I will be there as well, so we hope to see you there. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. And also this year, I'll be walking in the Chinese New Year parade with the Stonebray Elementary School Chinese Mandarin bilingual class. So that's at the end of the month, so that should be fun. Okay. With no other comments, I did have a response to the Capitol Corridor report. If we do send out an email All I would ask is to look at the possibility of sending an email, just that alone, because the Capitol Corridor is a pretty big issue. And if we can commit one email to just that item alone, I think that would, people would see it, more clearly. So, yeah. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to our consent calendar, Councilmember Goldstein has requested to pull 4 and 5 primarily just for comment. So, Councilmember Goldstein.
Yeah. Thank you. So on item number 4, I first want to congratulate Austin Bruckner Carrillo for his election to the Hayward Unified School District Board, and thank him for his service, years of service on the Community Services Commission. Austin, if you're listening, your participation is very much appreciated. On number 5, I had a question. May I continue? So on number 5, we are looking at basically ending the Hayward Navigation Center on the end of Depot Road. And over the past few years, as we've been contemplating what's happening with St. Regis, we talked about, because of some legal complications with state requirements, about the memory care lockup facility possibly being implemented at the Hayward Navigation Center. So I'm now wondering, since it wasn't addressed in the report, what's going to happen with that element of the facility, specifically the memory care lockup capability?
Yeah, I don't know if the offhand here, but we can certainly look into that for you.
Okay, I'd appreciate it if you look into it. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you. And then Councilmember Bonilla asked to make comment on item 12.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank Councilmember Goldstein for his work as the CSC liaison, and thank the mayor for his appointment of me to the CSC as their new liaison. I'm very excited to be working with this group again. I think the work that the CSC does is quite meaningful. One of the things that I committed to this community to do was to expand community services, and I think as a liaison to the CSC, especially at this point in time, it's so vital to protect our community's resources and our community services, especially those resources that serve our most vulnerable community members. So just very excited to partner with the CSC. I was on it for 7 years, so I'm happy I get to rejoin as the council liaison, and thank you for the opportunity, Mayor, and I look forward to working with all of the CSC commissioners as we carry out that very important responsibility.
Thank you, and good luck. Councilmember Syrup.
Thank you, Mayor. Quick comment on 4. Also wanted to congratulate now Trustee Bruckner Carrillo. When I first joined the Community Services Commission, Austin immediately stood out to me, and I knew that he had so much more to contribute to the community, and I'm excited to see him realize that potential in his new position. Quick comment on number 5. Once we go through the Surplus Land Act process, I would also be interested in knowing if we can explore what it would look like to lease land versus selling it. I'm always a little anxious when we give up or sell public land when there might be other ways to leverage it effectively. Sometimes it's the best use to sell it, and sometimes our budget depends on that, but I would just like to explore all options once we go through this process. For number 6, just a quick comment. I appreciate that staff included in their staff report that they would be looking at a socially responsible investment policy come April in the Budget and Finance Committee, and I just like that that was included in the report. And then lastly, a short amendment on item 12 is the Homelessness and Housing Task Force is now the Housing Policy and Resource Committee, and I just wanted to make sure that that committee assignment list was updated with the appropriate committee title for the public's benefit. And that's it. And with that, I'm happy to move all the items.
Before you do that, I'd like to open up for public comment. I don't see any public comment here, and I don't see any public comment online. So I'd like to close public comment. Moved by Councilmember Syrup.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Bonilla. And if there are no further questions, what was that?
the consent calendar, right?
Yes,
No
yeah,
objections.
yes, this is for the consent, the whole consent calendar, yes. And if there's no further questions, we can vote.
Actually, if there are
Oh,
no
it's
objections.
a unanimous, yes, of
Yes.
course. I always forget that part. So if there are no objections, it will unanimously pass, and we can move on to the next item. Next item is public hearing. Item number 13, and this is the implementation of the Hayward 2023. Oh, Director, well, okay, so before you leave, let me go back to the consent calendar before we fully approve the consent calendar, because it's on, one of her items is on the consent calendar. Tonight is Director Gonzalez's last night with us. She will be leaving the city of Hayward and going, I don't know, to some city up north somewhere. And she's going to the city of San Leandro, where, you know, the mayor is some guy up there. I don't know who he is, but no. I just wanted to, on behalf of the city council, and I'm sure your colleagues are going to be saying goodbye, you know, much more in the next few days. But I just wanted to thank you very much for all of your work and your contributions to the city of Hayward. You know, I always say, with much term of endearment, I sort of take you leaving personal. You know, you were a student of mine, but I assure everyone, I was not her math professor. So, you know, I just, you know, all of your work and your contributions to the city of Hayward have been incredible. And I know there's the city of San Leandro is where you started your career, and so I know there's a lot of significance to that. So congratulations. Thank you very much for all of your work, and on behalf of the city council, good luck and Godspeed. Okay. And then the consent calendar unanimously passes. Okay. All right. Don't worry, I won't get you sick. Yes. Okay, next is item number 13. It's the implementation of the Hayward 2023-2031 housing element, adoption of a resolution and introduction of an ordinance regarding implementation of the Hayward 2023-31 housing element, public hearing on proposed zoning text amendments to Hayward Municipal Code, Chapter 10, planning, zoning, and subdivisions, Article 1, zoning ordinance, and Article 2, off-street parking regulations, Article 24, Mission Boulevard Code, and Article 28, Downtown Development Code, and finding that no further environmental review is pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act, also known as CEQA. And this report is going to come to us by way of our Development Services Director, Bowser. But the fact that I see Deputy Director Christina Morales here, the expectations are high. The level of expert technical proficiency and competency is going to be nothing but the best.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. As you stated, the item before you tonight are zoning text amendments for supportive housing. This will further implement our sixth cycle housing element. Presenting tonight is Taylor Richard, Associate Planner in Development Services.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and Hayward community. I am Taylor Richard, an Associate Planner with the City of Hayward Planning Division. Tonight, I will be presenting zoning text amendments related to implementation of actions within Hayward's 2023-2031 housing element related to the development of supportive housing. I'm happy to announce we are in the final stage of this project. Over the past year, staff has conducted background research and stakeholder engagement, which built upon the extensive outreach done as part of the housing element. Based on the feedback received, we drafted regulations and refined them through work sessions and a public comment period. These regulations are in direct response to the ongoing housing and shelter crisis within California. Over the past decade, the Hayward City Council has adopted several plans and taken several actions to help address this crisis, including the adoption of the Hayward Housing Element, which was composed of goals, policies, programs, and actions to meet our community's housing need. These amendments will help the city fulfill several actions within the housing element, which are identified in the staff report and on the slide. The City of Hayward is required to fulfill these actions in order to stay in compliance with state law and ensure our housing element remains certified by the California Department of Housing and Community Development, also known as HCD. HCD has reviewed the draft amendments and provided minor comments. The amendments were edited accordingly and shared with HCD. Staff presented these zoning amendments to the Planning Commission in December, where they were unanimously recommended that City Council approve with the following modifications. Firstly, they recommended requiring a conditional use permit for safe parking. Staff's recommendation remains allowing safe parking with an administrative use permit as reflected in the ordinance. Secondly, they recommended creating a neighborhood accountability group for supportive housing developments, and this was outside the scope of this project and does not involve any amendments to the Hayward Municipal Code. Lastly, they recommended adding a definition for homelessness and fixing miscellaneous typographical errors. Staff incorporated these recommendations and they are reflected in the ordinance. Moving along, a comprehensive presentation of all of the zoning amendments was presented to City Council in October. And for that reason, I'm just going to cover the revisions to the amendments since that October work session. However, a detailed description of all the amendments can be found in the staff report, and I'm happy to answer any questions related to them. Starting with the revisions to the definitions within the zoning ordinance. The permitted use definition was updated to clarify that it means the same as a use by right, as requested by HCD. The dwelling unit definition was updated to clarify that all these units are permanent units, also requested by HCD. The emergency shelter definition was revised to clarify that these shelters are for individuals experiencing homelessness. Staff added a definition for homeless as requested by the Planning Commission. This definition aligns with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD. This definition includes housing insecure individuals, including those at risk of becoming homeless and individuals fleeing domestic violence. Lastly, the definition of safe parking was updated to clarify that individuals can sleep within their vehicles. Moving on to the revisions to the development standards for specific uses. Short-term and long-term bicycle parking requirements were added for SROs, as requested by a public commenter and the City Council. One short-term space would be required for every 10 sleeping rooms, and one long-term space would be required for every 4 sleeping units. And these were modeled after current bicycle regulations within the City of Hayward for multi-family developments. It was clarified that all vehicles within a safe parking operation need to be parked within striped spaces. And additionally, staff revised the safe parking regulations to allow temporary bathroom facilities as requested by City Council. Lastly, staff clarified that emergency shelters would need to be more than 300 feet away from one another. This was slightly modified to clarify that shelters can be exactly 300 feet from each other as requested by HCD. With that, staff recommends that the City Council approve the proposed text amendments to the Hayward Municipal Code, Chapter 10, Article 1, 2, 24, and 28, associated with the implementation of the Hayward 2023-2031 housing element pursuant to the accompanying resolution, Attachment 2, and upon determination that no further environmental review is required pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act. With that, I am more than happy to answer any questions you may have. I am joined by Development Services Deputy Director Christina Morales and Community Services Manager Amy Cole.
Thank you. Appreciate that. The housing element was no small task to put together, to write, and to, but most importantly, it was no easy task to get it across the finish line at the state. And so I just wanted to acknowledge staff's work on this. Also, I wanted to acknowledge, my colleagues on the Housing Committee, Councilmember Syrup and Councilmember Goldstein. We have looked through several drafts of this document, and I know this document has come to the council several times, and so a lot of the tweaks and edits that we're making tonight, we have been sort of tracking over a long period of time. So anyways, I just wanted to make that comment, but I also just wanted to thank you for your work doing this. Before I go to public comment, I'd like to open up any questions from council to staff. Councilmember Bonilla.
I just have a quick question, and thank you so much for this. It's so great to see kind of how proactive we're being with this and how comprehensive. But going to a community member's concern, kind of Ro Aguilar, with what she was saying around inclusive, affordable kind of communities by design, I really like that idea a lot, and I'm just wondering how this housing element, speaks to that or can advance that, or how do we kind of start to look at kind of these mixed use housing developments to where we're getting a spread of affordability and that the zoning requirements enable or in fact promote something like that?
I can't speak to all of the housing element actions. I can only speak to the ones that I'm part of tonight, but I'm joined by Deputy Director Christina Morales, who might be able to add something. But I will note, for these regulations in specific, we chose zoning districts that are close to services, kind of in that mixed use environment, so that these community members are in the middle of the community. They're not put on the outskirts of the city, and they're really like close to services that they need and need to access. So.
And what I would add in terms of the housing element, so we do have in our housing element that we will continue to monitor and evaluate our inclusionary housing ordinance, and that we will update it periodically as necessary. And I think our time frame for that is every 5 years. We last updated it in 2023. I do believe the expectation here is more of an inclusive community. So you're looking cross projects across properties. So it would be a larger complexity of how would you require multiple owners regulate a property at different income levels. But definitely would be tied to any kind of feasibility study, because we wouldn't want to, we don't want to discourage development because our standards are too high.
Got it. But we also want to make sure that the development is being inclusive of all of these different income levels and not inadvertently putting certain income levels, out of the running for either rental or, home ownership in Hayward neither. But thank you again for the great work that's went into this plan. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem Roach.
Thank you. I wanted to ask about the safe parking sites. And there was in the staff report, you reported that the Planning Commission voted in order to have the conditional use permit for safe parking, but you're recommending administrative use. And since, conditional use permits are usually for sort of, new things that might potentially impact a neighborhood. So I'm just wondering if you can explain why you're still recommending the administrative use permit in this situation.
We want to make sure that we're not putting up additional barriers for service providers to do this work in the Hayward community that is deeply needed. We are still requiring a use permit, which will notify the community. We'll be able to add conditions of approval, and we'll be able to revoke it. So staff believes that that is enough oversight to regulate a use of this nature. However, the Planning Commission thought it needed Planning Commission approval and a higher threshold. It's the City Council, if they would like to include that, can include it as part of their motion tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I want to go that far, but what will the community, just so that we're working in harmony with the community, should have saved, and because I've seen them in action, I think that they're, they seem to work fine and peacefully from the experiences that I've had visiting safe parking sites. But, I just want to make sure we're honoring, our commitment to a local community if we're going to put a new use in.
Yeah, so the community member would be all the community members within a 300-foot radius, or if they are on a notification listserv, will be notified when we receive the application and when the planning director makes a decision of the application. If they do not believe that the decision they don't agree with it, they are always welcome to appeal it to the Planning Commission, where the Planning Commission can make a decision, and it could also be appealed all the way up to City Council. Throughout the use permit process, though, the planner works between the community and the developer to get those comments addressed as part of the project. So they are definitely part of the communication,
Okay.
and we welcome their comments.
All right, thank you for that explanation.
Councilmember Syra.
Thank you. Thank you for this report and all the hard work that's gone into this. So just to clarify, I know there was feedback received around creating some kind of neighborhood advisory group, but staff's analysis is that's outside of the scope of what we're seeing tonight.
That is correct. We are working on implementation of these actions, and a creation of a neighborhood group, like we have many, like task forces in the city of Hayward, are not related to municipal code changes related to the zoning ordinance.
Got it, thank you. And then my second question is, I understand that an appeal can be made to the Planning Commission, but given that we are in a state of emergency around homelessness specifically, and just also to take some pressure off of the Planning Commission, do you think it's worthwhile for those kinds of appeals to come straight to the council while we're in the state of emergency?
I believe the zoning code allows city council to call up any item that's on the Planning Commission agenda. So if you guys, as a body, felt it was appropriate and wanted to do that, you could do that if it was appealed.
Okay, so we'd have to proactively pull it out. And
Yes.
then just maybe to my knowledge, because I've yet to see us do that in the past few years, would that require, a referral by, okay. Can any council member pull it? Okay. So it would be a single council member requesting an item from the Planning Commission agenda.
Correct.
Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying that. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Zermeño.
Thank you, Mayor. Tyler, very good presentation. Thank you. Thank you all the hard work. Thank you, my colleagues on the committee also. Two quick questions. One, recommendation of a neighborhood accountability group. The purpose?
The Planning Commission requested that because they had concerns about some of the current developments in Hayward, and that the neighborhoods have had concerns about some of the ongoing nuisances with it. And so they thought a neighborhood accountability group would be great to kind of work with the community, better understand those challenges, and work with service providers to resolve them.
It wouldn't be a formal group. It would be a group of homeowners getting together to look this over, or?
I'm not entirely certain what the Planning Commission had in mind of who the makeup of the group was.
Okay, all right. I guess that needs to be clarified eventually down the line. And the other question is, tax exempt nonprofits. Have we identified any of them? How will we go about identifying them so that we can put their recourses or their lots to use?
So we have reached out to several faith-based organizations as part of this implementation, and those are tax-exempt agencies, and we've reached out to service providers. And once following the adoption, we will do some sort of outreach and tell them about the new regulations and offer technical assistance. So we will include correspondence to those tax-exempt agencies.
Okay. Will they be given any city grants for allowing safe parking?
You would have to talk to Amy Cole, our community services manager.
All right. Okay. So we do have some identified, I suppose?
No one, Amy Cole might know if there are any providers that are currently interested in providing safe parking. These regulations don't obviously guarantee the development of them. They just allow for it, which is currently not allowed.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And there are no other questions up here, so I have to go to public comment. And our first public comment is Kelly Abreu. Did I say that? And this time you wrote it very clear, and I still can't say it.
Abreu. So if you're looking for grants on this area, the first place to look would be the County Community Development Agency. Alameda County is where a lot of the money comes from, also the state, but a lot of, the cities don't have much money. I probably don't have to tell you that. Hayward deserves credit for being in compliance with the housing element, and I haven't watched your stuff too much, but I did look at the last housing cycle, Hayward did well compared to other cities in this county. Your unincorporated regions directly to the north had lots of residents opposed to their housing element. They showed up in large numbers. They're 1/4 of the way, we're all 1/4 of the way through the current housing cycle, and no one wants to tell us what the current status is as of now, the milestones. How many units were you supposed to produce? 1/4 of them? Have you produced 1/4 of them? None of the cities or counties are talking about that. No one wants to talk about milestones. One of the unincorporated region directly to your north had, in the last housing element, 37% compliance with the housing element of last cycle, which is pretty miserable. And a city directly to your south, neighboring city directly to your south, had equally bad or worse compliance with the housing element. Hayward was doing great compared to your neighbors. Hayward supports safe parking. We just saw that. I live in Fremont. Fremont just enacted a camping ban, amid considerable public opposition. So that's at the same time they still reiterate and claiming that they're a compassionate city. Some of us would question that. Hayward looks pretty compassionate here tonight. So yeah, I just want to point out that here you are, you're chugging along, and I don't see a crowd of people here to complain about all the stuff you're doing. And a lot of the things that are happening elsewhere are not nearly this, at least your intentions are good and you're trying to head in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you for those kind words. Our next speaker is Aaron Horner. Mr. Horner. And Mr. Horner will have 30 seconds.
As long as I can do an offering after. Hello again, everyone. The normal sermon is 35 minutes, so thank you all for coming out today. I appreciate you. A couple of things I would like to just thank Taylor, not just for this, but all of the things that she's done to streamline processes for us in working to onboard a shelter and possible housing solutions with the properties that we own in the neighborhood. I would also like to point out the need for sanctioned camping, and second, the need for safe parking. And one element to include is to make sure that there is safe parking that would allow for RV parking. There are quite a few folks across the county who have RVs, but not many have access to a safe place to do that. So that causes more problems in our community if we don't have a sanctioned place for that. That would be a really good thing to include. Another element that's come up through many of my conversations with some of the folks here on the council, with our Hayward Police Department, with Parks, with the HARD board, with folks working street maintenance, is the need for more resources in more neighborhoods. Because when we only have resources available in one space, it can create additional access issues for people. One thing that was just mentioned in a public meeting last week with the county supervisor, a deputy sheriff that does this work full-time, mentioned that where resources exist, where there's food, where there's access to bathrooms, where there's access to showers and laundry, crime is reduced. Specifically around our unhoused population. So that is a well-known fact. It's proven. So I would move that we would look to make more of those resources available throughout the city. My brother Tyrus back here wanted to make sure I said that we had a place that people can go where they can access resources. They can just be and be able to connect. The UCSF study that was just done this past year in California, the largest study done around homelessness, showed that almost double the amount of individuals are able to access services in a shelter space, in a living space where there's a resource center where they come regularly, versus just half of those numbers being able to meet that for people that are staying in the community. And that does lower the quality of life for our entire community when people have to sleep outside. I would also put out you know, if we were able to have more shelters in smaller areas, so like, for example, North Hayward, West Hayward, different parts of South Hayward. South Hayward is kind of large. If we were able to have shelters in different areas and be able to have those resources locally, that would make it to where we could reduce crime in all of those. And then the last thing I would put up is I believe that they were considered, but the Alameda County Home Together Plan will be utilizing Measure W dollars. They're going through the process right now, and some of those funds could be used for some of these capital improvements, and we'd love to be a part of that. Thank you.
Thank you. We have our next speaker is online, Ro Aguilar. Go ahead.
Hello again. I want to say that I'm in support of these revisions to the housing element and agree with the support letter sent by Firm Foundation Community Housing, especially on the importance of expanded housing options. I would like to add that SRO units in the form of modified hotels are critical to meet the growing numbers and needs of the diverse homeless population. The city must address this issue of large-scale, safe, dignified, and stable housing with wraparound services urgently. The numbers of homeless will be increasing as housing prices rise, and new federal funding for solutions is uncertain at least for the next 4 years. Sweeps, I would like to briefly agree with Aaron on sweeps are a waste of public resources, ineffective and inhumane, more so if we cannot offer housing and services long term. And we sweep these folks, I don't know where. I encourage the city to move toward more partnerships and coalitions with other cities and the county, nonprofits, and faith-based organizations throughout our city and Alameda County to apply cooperatively for funding with the added advantage of identifying hotel locations throughout the entire county. It's similar to what Aaron is saying about spreading out these facilities and services. In relation to outcomes and accountability, it would be helpful if the staff could estimate the number of units and/or the number of homeless people that could probably be served on the total acres parcels listed on the attachment for land use maps for each use. Sort of like RENA with housing meeting certain criteria of income level. I appreciate all the work that council and staff have done, and yet, we know there is a long way to go to solve the high housing crisis. Your work is literally saving lives. Thank you.
Thank you. We don't have any more public commenters, so I'd like to close public comment. And before I ask for a motion, I just wanted to just reiterate to staff, thank you very much for all of your work on this. And, I sit on a couple of committees countywide, and I participate in the Alameda County Mayor's Conference committee task force for the unhoused. Also, I sit on the housing committee with Councilmember Syrup and Councilmember Goldstein. And Councilmember Goldstein is on the Alameda County Housing Authority. He's our liaison to the Housing Authority. And we have arguably, and I'll say this, arguably one of the most proficient minds with Dr. Amy Cole Bloom, who is working on this issue, who probably this issue takes the majority of her time that she has. We have some of the smartest staff that has over the years have become experts in housing, experts in finding humane, dignified, good strategies to make sure unhoused are served with humanity, with dignity, and are connected to services. And I, over the years, I think we have done a great job, and I agree with the speaker who came up here and compared us to some of our neighboring cities. I'm not gonna, throw them under the bus. I'm friends with, my colleagues to the north and to the south, and they do what they can. But I have to say, I've said this before, and I'll say it again up here, that I think Hayward does lead the way in the county. While we may not have some of the large budgets and pools of resources that other large cities have in the Bay Area, with the resources that we have been able to do some miraculous work. We might be small, but we are mighty in this space. And so I really wanted to say that because we get, on occasion we get people come to the council and they think they discovered the issue of unhoused, the day before they show up, and they have no idea of the work that we have done up on this dais and in this building when it comes to responding to the unhoused crisis right now, the housing crisis right now. I think all of us who sit on regional boards and commissions, we see the work that's being done out there. And I can assure you that I feel pretty proud that here in this building, when we come to work, we know that the work that we're doing is responsive and dignified with some of our most vulnerable neighbors. So I appreciate that. With that said, if there are no other questions or comments, Councilmember Syrup.
Thank you. I'm happy to move the item, but before I do, I wanted to make a few comments and ask a few more questions. First, I just wanted to echo the mayor's comments. I think we are really fortunate to have incredibly skilled and knowledgeable staff that help us be a leader in this space. I do think Hayward is a leader among its peers in the city, in the region, but I also don't want us to rest on our laurels, because I also think that the bar is kind of on the floor as it relates to just our regional approach to addressing the housing crisis. So I want us to keep pushing the envelope wherever we can, and I think this is a major step towards that. Also wanted to thank Aaron Horner and South Hayward Parish and all the folks that do work there in the Hayward community for helping us tackle this issue and inform our solutions. So just wanted to ask some questions around some of the comments that came up. The definition of safe parking, does it currently include RVs or not?
It does.
Great, thank you for clarifying that. This idea around sanctioned camping that Aaron had brought up, we heard from Dr. Cole Bloom when we talked about our Let's House Hayward homelessness strategic plan, that encampment resolution was something we also needed to start thinking about. We can't just abate encampments because, like we heard, they'll just reappear, an hour later, if not a day later. How do we actually resolve the issue on a deeper level? But it sounds like that's outside of the scope specifically of the housing element, something like sanctioned encampments. Is that correct?
We, early on in the process, looked at safe camping regulations and felt at the time that I believe the Planning Commission didn't feel like we were ready for that and wanted to take a baby step by allowing safe parking and some of the other ones and see how they worked before we made other changes to the municipal code.
Okay, I understand that thinking. I want to flag that when we have one of our key service providers and our community services manager both saying, encampment resolution, we should take that seriously. And I hope our Planning Commission does as well, as we begin to see how this looks with safe parking and hopefully resolution down the line. SROs in the form of modified hotels and motels, as Ro had mentioned, is that currently in here?
Yep, that's allowed.
Great, thank you for clarifying that. And then, I know there's this comment around inclusive neighborhoods or communities from Ro as well. I would say maybe to my colleagues that our strategic planning process, I know we have a strategic priority around cultivating vibrant neighborhoods, and maybe the idea of an inclusive neighborhood fits within that framework because it sounds like it's outside of the scope of this particular element. Is that correct?
It's outside the scope of this specific project, which was just looking at the
Yeah.
set of actions we needed to complete before January 31st.
Got it. Thank you. And then just on the topic of having neighborhood advisory groups, I appreciate our planning commissioners wanting to make sure that our community has a voice at the table. I do want to just kind of, I would never be one to try to dissuade anybody from organizing with their community. I want to encourage them, if they feel like that group needs to exist, to form it themselves. If they get together with their neighbors, they essentially are the neighborhood advisory group, and there's not a need for the city to actually intervene in that process. That would be costly in terms of staff time as it relates to scheduling, and I know that we have staff that are very generous with their time to our residents. So if you form a group with your neighbors and reach out on behalf of your group via email, staff is always at the Planning Commission meetings for public comment. You're welcome to come give public comment here. All of this is to say that I think the venues for us to hear from the community already exist without us creating more bureaucracy or creating more steps before we're able to actually address this crisis. So I want to thank the Planning Commissioners for their innovative thinking, but I would advise us not to reinvent the wheel and use the channels we already have without creating more processes and using tax dollars for that purpose. I think those are most of my comments. I will stop there and happy to move the item.
Thank you. Moved by Councilmember Syrup.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Goldstein. And Councilmember Goldstein, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I think I broke the mic. There we go. First of all, I just want to thank you for just a tremendous amount of effort that you and your teams have put into making this code update happen. It's a lot. I feel like I've been walking with you through this process, and I just feel deeply honored. One of the items that struck me on the response to public comments, item number 38, talked about some research that you had uncovered with Santa Clara County, and what they talked about was the cost to do nothing versus the cost to solve the problem. And doing nothing was costing them on average $62,473 per person per year. And it includes mostly issues like hospitalizations, but also police response, cleanup efforts. Anyway, the whole plethora of things that have to happen to do nothing is very expensive, $62,000 a year per person, versus doing something that actually solves the problem costs us about $42,706. Now, that's their math. I'm not sure what our math would work out to be. I like to think, based on the great achievements that we've had with the Hayward Navigation Center, with over 600 people served and 300, I forgot the total number, 330 people actually graduating to permanent housing. I'd like to think that maybe we're doing something better. Maybe we are. But the point is, to do nothing is very expensive, and it comes with a human toll. People die when they're not being treated medically, when they're not being treated professionally, and they die spiritually when they're left uncared for. And so I admire what we do as a city to care for people. And these people are somebody's child, a son, a daughter to somebody. So thank you for caring. I'll leave my comments at that, but thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Roach.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to thank city staff for your thoughtful approach to all of these changes, because I think you sort of take all of our comments and really think about how it fits into our larger scope and what we can accomplish and how the community might take it. So I really appreciate that. I do think what we're doing here is being as responsive as possible to provide the opportunity for supportive housing of all types to be built. That while the city doesn't actually build this housing, we're creating a welcoming environment to try to help solve the crisis, at least here in Hayward, as well as hopefully set a trend going forward. And again, just the compassionate, knowledgeable staff that we have, I think has really guided us forward. So I just appreciate all that. And, and I hope by doing all this, we can create more shelters, more housing, more safe parking sites. So thank you. And I'll support the motion.
Thank you. Councilmember Andrews.
Yes, I'll support the motion. I do appreciate all the comments here. I still would like to see some kind of accountability group when it comes to the psychiatric and rehabilitation location. And if that is with staff time, I think it's worth it. So if we could figure that out, I would like to make that happen. But outside of that, I do understand the concern of staff time with the neighborhood accountability group. I think when you go to districts, I think that will become a neighborhood accountability group. So I'm hoping that that would reduce some of the need for the administrative burden for staff. But I definitely, I want to make sure that somehow that gets into the motion as well. Is that possible, or do we need to do something else to make that happen?
What I will say, because psychiatric and rehabilitation facilities will require a use permit process. We've had similar locked facilities throughout Hayward, and it's staff's process to require a condition of approval that requires annual notification of all of the neighbors, and that they are given the contact of who to call in the event that something happens, so that 911 is not their first call. They can have the on-site manager's contact information. And once again, these are the psychiatric and rehabilitation facilities are typically locked facilities, so there is less impact to the surrounding neighborhood.
Okay, and then what about the county ran facilities that we're reviewing?
Can you repeat that? Sorry,
The county, I also am interested in the county ran facilities that are not locked facilities as well.
Do you have a specific facilities in mind?
It will be coming, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can't speak to specific facilities, but it is most all of these, none of them with the exception of things that are required by state law are by right. So all of them are through the use permit process, which means we have the ability to add conditions of approval to monitor how people operate.
Okay, great, thanks.
Great. Okay. Councilmember Zermeño.
My apologies. Thanks again. I do like all the comments, even the bicycle parking. That's excellent. If the other 182 Bay Area cities did what we are doing, this issue really would not be an issue. So I commend my colleagues. I commend the staff for doing what we're doing. Thank you to Aaron and to other folks who are actually out there on the ground doing some action. So let's keep doing this. I think it's something that's good for all of us. So thanks again.
Thank you. Okay, so with that said, moved by Councilmember Syrup, seconded by Councilmember Goldstein, and that is with no amendments, because I know you made a comment, but we get that resolved.
We can, when the facility comes, we will do it as part of conditions of approval to have an accountability group as part of the conditions of approval.
Or require some sort of notification or forming. It will really depend on where they're located. I will say, for the psychiatric and rehabilitation facilities, they tend to be located, I think where we're permitting them are mostly in the industrial area, so there are not neighbors to these projects.
Okay, thank you.
So I just want to be clear, we're passing staff's recommendations. Okay, perfect. Okay, moved by Councilmember Syrup, seconded by Councilmember Goldstein. And if there are no further questions, Madam City Clerk, if you can take the roll.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Go ahead and Councilmember Andrews.
Aye.
Councilmember Bonilla Jr.
Yes.
Councilmember Goldstein.
Yes.
Councilmember Roach.
Yes.
Councilmember Syrup.
Yes.
Councilmember Cermeño. Mayor Salinas.
Yes, and it passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item is council reports and announcements. Any council reports and announcements? Councilmember Andrews.
Yes, we are having a Southern California Wildfires toiletry drive happening right now. You can drop off toiletries at Laguna Labor Hall, located at 29475 Mission Boulevard, Stack Records, 965 B Street, Brick by Brick Toys, 24048 Hesperian Boulevard, and we'll be having a drop-off event from 2 to 5 p.m. at Southland Mall this Saturday outside of J.C. Penney's. So I want to thank our partners at Southland for allowing us the space to collect these items, and we'll be working with some groups that will be driving these items down to Los Angeles to help those in need right now. So, thank you.
Thank you. And also, Madam City Manager, I wanted to ask, and I believe they may still be down there, but do we still have our 2 engines down in Southern California? Do we know that?
I believe that is correct, but I will need to confirm with our chief, and I'll get back to you.
Okay, thank you. The city of Hayward and the Hayward Fire Department did send 2 engines down there, and so if they are still down there, of course, we are praying for all of the firefighters and first responders in Los Angeles. Of course, we're praying for the victims of the fires down there. But of course, we always want to see Hayward firefighters come home at the end of the shift. So thank you for that. So if there are no other council reports and announcements, I'll move on to council referrals. We don't have any referrals, so I'll move on to adjournment. I do have a few adjournments that I wanted to make. I have 3. So the first adjournment is the city of Hayward. We have suffered a loss from Ishmael Ariano. Ishmael Coda Ariano, born October 27th, 1942 in Russell City, California, to Albert and Herminia Ariano, passed away peacefully on December 31st, 2024 at 9:59 p.m. He was a devoted husband, father, grandfather, and faithful servant of God whose life was marked by love, ministry, and an unwavering commitment to his faith. Ishmael dedicated his life to church ministry after giving his heart to the Lord at the young age of 20. While raising his family, he attended Western Apostolic Bible College in Stockton, California, alongside his wife, Juanita. Together, they faithfully served in pastoral roles, building churches and communities across the United States and the world. As Secretary of Missions, Ishmael expanded his reach globally, supporting churches in over 40 countries and helping to establish infrastructure, provide resources, and inspire countless believers. His favorite scripture, "I have been young and now I am old, yet I have not seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed beg bread," reflected his life of faith and trust in God's provision. Ishmael was a profound and loving father to 2 of his daughters, Christina and Jacqueline. He is survived by his wife of 60 years, Juanita Ariano, grandchildren Josiah Sanchez, Ishmael Bruno, Christy Sanchez, Amadeus Bruno, and great-grandson Ethan Sanchez, leaving a legacy of spiritual impact that spans generations. His family finds comfort in knowing he is now in the presence of the Lord, whom he served so faithfully. Ishmael's life will be celebrated on January 17th at the Union City Apostolic Church actually, this happened a couple days ago. So I just wanted to wish the family of the Ariano family our prayers. And Madam City Manager, if I can have staff reach out to the Ariano family and have a tree planted in their loved one's name. Our next memoriam is a good friend of mine, a young man, Victor Morales. Victor William Morales Jr. was born November 13, 1968, to Victor and Gloria Morales. He was a big brother to Anissa and Liz Morales, brother-in-law to Guillermo Contreras, and Theo and Nino to Andrew, Veronica, Emilio, Xochitl, and Lucas. Victor attended Hayward schools and graduated from Sunset High School. Since he was a young boy, he played baseball for Mountain Little League, and he was a pitcher for the Sunset High School baseball team. Victor was a dedicated and hard worker, beginning with his career at NUMMI in Fremont and then beginning his own TV entertainment business. He was very passionate about providing amazing home entertainment systems for his clients. Victor enjoyed hanging out with his friends in downtown Hayward and supporting local businesses. And you would see him every summer at the downtown street fairs, enjoying music and saluting to a good drink and laughing with his buddies. He loved having a great time. And Victor will be missed dearly by his friends and his family. Salute Victor, also known as Mr. Hayward. Some of you if you remember, Victor was he was tall, he was big, and his one characteristic was he always had matching glasses. His glass game was on point. He always wore, for every occasion, a different pair of glasses for every holiday. So if it was St. Patrick's Day, green. If it was, another event, it'd be blue, or Christmas would be red. But he always had a matching Gucci cap. His glasses matched his hat, and he was a big voice. He was probably one of the most personable individuals that. Every time, like during the street parties, every time he walked into Casa del Toro or Buffalo Bills or Brews and Brats or whatever, he was always there, and just a great friend, and he will be missed sorely, and God bless him. Next, it is my honor and privilege to recognize Bonnie Alvarez Rivera, who was born in Anniston, Alabama on May 28, 1943. She served the Hayward Unified School District as an educator, as a bilingual teacher for 30 years for HUSD. She began her teaching career in elementary education at Lauren Eden Elementary School in 1965, shortly after graduating from San Jose State University with a degree in education. In 1971, she took a short sabbatical to raise her family, but returned to teaching at Palmacia in 1976 and subsequently at Roos Elementary, where she taught until 1998. Bonnie was a strong advocate for bilingual education, teaching in the program for several decades. She also served as a rep for the Hayward Education Association. Teaching and guiding others was always her passion throughout her life. She is survived by her daughters Tony Rivera Ramos and Deborah Rivera Olds, who are both educators. And her two granddaughters, Isabella Ramos and Gabriela Olds, son-in-laws James Ramos and Ron Olds, as well as her sisters Kathy Breed, Elisa Kocher, and Aurora Engelking. Ms. Rivera is a mother of a friend I went to high school with, and Ms. Rivera, her family is watching tonight right now, and I just wanted to wish her family, the Rivera family, our prayers, our condolences, and God bless your family, and especially God bless your mom. And with that, I adjourn these meetings, and I'm sure we will reach out to their families and plant a tree once we come to a location. Again, God bless them, and meeting's adjourned.
Record